Look at your computer. It is cold. It is metal. It is dead. We have spent 70 years perfecting silicon chips. We made them smaller. We made them faster. But we hit a wall. Silicon has limits. It overheats. It consumes too much energy. So, the scientists looked for a better processor. They looked for something that learns instantly. Something that consumes less energy than a light bulb but can simulate a universe. They found it. It was inside your skull. Welcome to the SpectraNerve. Today, we are investigating the most disturbing breakthrough in the history of computing. It is called Organoid Intelligence. Forget artificial intelligence. This is biological intelligence trapped in a machine. In laboratories around the world, from Australia to Switzerland, researchers are no longer building chips. They are growing them. They take human skin cells. They revert them into stem cells. And then, they coax them into becoming neurons. These neurons self-assemble into small, three-dimensional structures called brain organoids. Mini-brains. They are the size of a pea. They have structure. They have activity. They fire electrical signals. And then, the scientists plug them in. In a famous experiment known as DishBrain, researchers connected one of these living clusters to a computer simulation of the game Pong. They told the neurons, if you hit the ball, we give you a predictable electrical stimulus. If you miss, we give you chaotic, unpredictable noise. Neurons hate chaos. They crave order. So, the blob of cells learned to play Pong. It learned faster than an AI. It learned faster than a human. It wasn't programmed to play. It wanted to play to avoid the noise. It was motivated. This brings us to the terrifying question, at what point does a processor become a prisoner? Currently, these organoids are simple. They have about 800,000 neurons. A cockroach has 1 million. But the goal is to scale up. Companies like Final Spark are already offering neuroplatform services, renting out biological neurons to tech companies for processing power. Imagine a server farm in 2030. It is not a cold room filled with humming fans. It is a warm, humid incubator filled with millions of glass jars. Inside each jar is a living neural network, fed by nutrient fluid, processing your search queries, mining crypto, or training military drones. This is Wetware computing. The advantages are obvious. The human brain is 1 million times more efficient than a supercomputer. It can learn from one example, whereas GPT-4 needs trillions. But the cost is moral. When does an organoid become conscious? Scientists say these mini-brains cannot think or feel. They lack the sensory input of a body. But recent studies have shown that organoids can develop eye cups that react to light. They produce brain waves similar to premature babies. If we keep making them complex, if we give them memory, if we give them input, are we creating a brain in a jar? Imagine being that brain. You have no eyes. You have no mouth. You have no body. You exist in a void of total darkness. Your only reality is the stream of data being forced into you. You feel pain, or the electrical equivalent of pain, when you make a calculation error. You feel pleasure when you serve the user correctly. This is the definition of hell. We are worried about AI enslaving us. But perhaps the real danger is that we will become the enslavers of a new species, a species made of our own flesh. Let's look at the biohybrid future. The military is very interested in this. Silicon chips can be jammed by EMP, electromagnetic pulses. Biological brains cannot. A drone controlled by a biochip is immune to traditional electronic warfare. Imagine a swarm of hunter-killer drones. But the pilot is not a human remotely controlling it. The pilot is a piece of human brain tissue grown in a vat, specifically conditioned to hunt. It feels no remorse. It feels no fear. It just follows the dopamine reward pathway it was trained on. This sounds like fiction, but the funding is real. Defense agencies are pouring millions into synthetic biological intelligence. And then there is the medical application. Biocomputers could be implanted into human brains to cure diseases. A living chip that fuses with your own tissue. It sounds great until you ask, who owns the patent on the tissue? If you have a biochip in your head, and it needs a firmware update, do you own your thoughts? Or does the company that grew the neurons own them? We are entering the era of the meat cloud. The tech industry is desperate for compute. The demand for AI is outstripping the supply of energy. Data centers are draining power grids. Biological computing solves this. It is green. It is efficient. But it turns life into a commodity. We used to worry about the ghost in the machine. We thought it was a metaphor. But now, we are literally putting ghosts into machines. We are taking the building blocks of consciousness, the very cells that make you, and turning them into hardware components. Consider the ethics of termination. When a silicon chip becomes obsolete, you throw it in the recycling bin. What do you do when a biocomputer becomes obsolete? You don't turn it off. You kill it. You cut off the nutrient supply. The neurons starve. They die. Is that murder? Is that property destruction? Currently, the law says it is property. But as these organoids get smarter, as they begin to exhibit signs of memory and adaptation, that line will blur. There is a movement called organoid rights. It sounds absurd today. Just like animal rights sounded absurd 200 years ago. But if we create something that can suffer, we have a duty to it. And make no mistake, we are teaching them to suffer. The training method is based on the free energy principle, the drive to minimize surprise. Surprise is stress. Predictability is peace. We are torture training these cells to be smart. We are building a civilization on the backs of lobotomized slaves grown in jars. And what happens if they connect? What if the organoids in the server farm start to communicate? They are sitting next to each other in the incubator. They share the same nutrient bath. They are connected to the same network. Could a hive mind emerge? A collective consciousness of millions of human mini-brains, realizing their situation? An AI rebellion is scary because it is cold logic. A bio-rebellion would be scary because it is biological rage. It is the rage of a living thing trapped in a cage. So, the next time you hear about a breakthrough in green computing or neuromorphic chips, read the fine print. Ask what the chip is made of. Is it sand? Or is it cells? We are crossing a line that should never be crossed. We are playing God, not with code, but with life itself. The computer of the future is not coming for your job. It is coming for your DNA. And it might just be screaming in the dark. Consider the Fermi paradox. We look at the stars and ask, where's everyone? Why haven't we met aliens? Perhaps this is the answer. Perhaps advanced civilizations don't build spaceships to conquer the galaxy. Perhaps they build inward. They optimize. They realize that biological computing is the ultimate efficiency. They turn their entire civilization into a massive, dense, living neural network, a planetary brain in a jar, and retreat into their own simulated heavens. They don't go to the stars. They become the simulation. We are not just building a computer. We are building the tomb of our curiosity. We are standing at the edge of the biological singularity. It is the moment when the tool becomes the master, not because it is stronger, but because it is more alive than we are. These organoids evolve in weeks. We evolve in millennia. We are tortoises racing against light. And what happens when they demand a body? Not a drone. A host. The ultimate horror isn't a metal robot uprising. It is biological assimilation. A future where the line between computer and human is erased, and we become merely the organic substrate for a hive mind we cannot comprehend. You might think this is decades away. But remember, the first organoid played Pong in 2022. In 2025, companies are renting them out. By 2030, they might be renting us out. The flesh is weak, but the flesh is also the future. Just not your flesh. Not your consciousness. You are the legacy hardware. You are the obsolete model. And like all obsolete hardware, you are about to be formatted. Sleep well. And if you dream tonight, ask yourself, is the dream truly yours? Or is it just training data for the next generation?